we can feel very out of touch with the people in history, people 200 years ago, 300 years ago. Like we can almost feel like they didn't exist, or that these are just stories or myths that are told about what happened in this time period. But the reality is that we can almost sit beside them and hear their stories. And we can do that through books, firsthand accounts, stories about what's happening to these people. And then, you know, if we really want to get in touch, we really want to get a feel for that, we can go to these living history sites. We can see these things portrayed. Today, I want to tell you a little bit more about the German soldiers that came over to fight during the Revolutionary War. Such a real interesting story about what happened in history, what happened to these soldiers. And the story is very, widely. We aren't told a lot about these kinds of things in high school. It's like, oh yeah, some German mercenaries came over during the war, and that's about it. We don't hear very much about them, about the soldiers themselves, and about the story and their hardships and what happened to them. What happened to them after the war? There's some great information available out there. I've got a couple of books I'm going to read from today. These stories are so poignant, and just about the idea about there being mercenaries. Probably most of these soldiers, they weren't really in the army voluntarily. They didn't ask to be sent over to America to fight in this war, and many of them didn't even want to be in the military, and they weren't specifically paid to come over here. So while they were mercenaries in one sense, they themselves, as soldiers, weren't being paid to come over and fight, other than being paid in their their food and their clothing, and that's about it. These German soldiers came over from 6 different distinct little, principalities within Germany at the time. Germany wasn't one cohesive country as we think of it, but as a bunch of little tiny sort of small principalities with their own individual princes. And 6 of these regions sold troops to the British Crown, they were behind the 8 ball. They needed to have troops over in North America right away to start fighting this rebellion. And so they went to the German princes, and they found about 30,000 troops that could be sent over to North America to fight. The first story